And thank you, everybody, for coming. It's great to be here with you today. So as most of you know, if not all of you, TAB's an organization of very highly successful, highly committed business owners that consistently outperform their competitors. And one of the many things that TAB members are good at doing is learning from each other. So one of the things I'd like to do here today is share some of the most valuable lessons that I've learned in my career as a serial entrepreneur, both before and after I discovered TAB more than a dozen or so years ago. So I guess we could start moving through some of these slides. So like many of you, I've certainly received my share of battle scars from the business world. And so before I jump into this content, it might be helpful to give you a little bit of background on me, to give you some perspective of where I'm coming from. So I've worked for several large companies early in my career, but I also ran a bunch of small ones later in my career. Excuse me. I started my career as a chemical engineer, but then quickly migrated out of engineering into various executive and business roles. And the second portion of my career, say the last 20 years, I've been exclusively dedicated to being a serial entrepreneur. So during that time, I've started and led 9 different companies, and those companies ranged all over the map in terms of industry and size and type. They went from software to electronics, from professional services to sporting goods. I even ran a wholesale seafood company. So, my perspective comes out of many, many, many different industries. And, like many of you, I've been very fortunate. I've had a bunch of outstanding mentors, but I've also screwed up royally many, many times. And fortunately, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I'm still here. So fortunately, I've learned a ton in my career. And my favorite people in the world are business owners. And part of the reason that I do what I do is because my passion lies in helping private business owners achieve their personal vision. And so 15 years ago, I founded Z3 Performance Development, which is the company I run today, based on this whole premise of freedom through results, results through responsibility. And Z3 is dedicated to helping private business owners build high-performance, consistent, world-class sales organizations. And as a consequence, Z3 is now the largest sales development company in Texas and serves hundreds of business owners, not just in Texas, but all over North America, including dozens and dozens of TAB members throughout North America. But Z3 is also the home of TAB Austin, and I've been with TAB for close to 13 years, I think, and run one of the most successful TAB franchises in the world. And in my involvement with TAB, I've led close to 500 TAB board meetings. I've conducted somewhere around 1,000 private coaching sessions with some of the best business owners in Austin. So, and I'm also the area developer for TAB Texas. So I tell you all of that just to let you know where I'm coming from and sort of give you a perspective of where these lessons and the things I'm about to share with you come out of. Now, because I've spent that much time with entrepreneurs over the last 2 decades, it's not only given me a panoramic perspective, but also a huge opportunity to recognize patterns and common mistakes, which is what I want to share with you today. Because what I found is that in many cases in small private business, the movie doesn't change that much. It's just the actors that change, and you start to really recognize patterns. So as I've said, when it comes to running business, I've screwed up a huge amount of times. I've screwed up a lot, probably a lot more than most of you. But I've also tried to learn from my mistakes. And although a lot of the mistakes were very, very costly, the lessons I've learned from them have actually subsequently saved me millions and millions of dollars. So as most of you know, one of the big benefits of TAB is that you all have the opportunity to learn from other people's mistakes instead of making them yourself. And one of my regrets in life is that I didn't learn about TAB 20 years ago versus 12 years ago, because it would have saved me a lot of money. So for those of you that are in TAB, which I think is probably the majority of you, congratulations. You've fallen into something that can save you a lot of time and energy and money and profit, and I'm sure you know that if you're in TAB. So the good news about some of these lessons that I'm about to share with you is that none of them require doing more work, okay, to implement them, but they do require smarter work, okay? So, and for some of you, they might also require different thinking or perhaps even a paradigm shift. So my goal today is to share these mistakes and the lessons that I've learned, and to get you out of here on time. So let's try to make this hour as valuable as we can for each and every one of you. And as Jan said, feel free to jump in as we go through these slides. I'm no fan of reading verbose slides, so you'll notice most of these slides are more pictures than verbiage. And feel free to stop me anytime. But also, despite the fact that there isn't a lot of verbiage, I've written an ebook that encompasses all of these lessons. And at the end of the presentation, I'll give you the link to get that. You can download that ebook from my website. So you don't need to take a whole lot of notes if you're a note taker, because most of what I share with you is going to be contained in that ebook, and you could just download it at no cost. So, all right. So let's move on to lesson number 1. So first of all, you likely started your business because you had a passion. Maybe your passion was making cupcakes or restoring cars or developing software or providing IT services. If you really love to fix computers or make cupcakes and you plan on building a successful company, please don't make the mistake of thinking that you'll be spending the majority of your time, especially in the early stages of your business, either making cupcakes or developing software, because you won't be doing that fun stuff if you want to build a successful company, especially in the early stages of your business. A big lesson here is that the vast majority of entrepreneurs dramatically underestimate the percentage of time and energy they need to devote to running and growing the business versus doing the tactical stuff in their business, like making the cupcakes, okay? So there's certainly a time and a place for pursuing your passion in your business, and I founded Z3, and I'm involved with TAB because I'm highly committed to helping people achieve their personal vision. So you could certainly get there, but I'm just encouraging you to not put the cart before the horse. So I'm a big fan of making your vocation your vacation, doing what you love to do, living your dream. But the time for pursuing your passion is after, not before you've installed all of the systems, processes, strategies, and people that you need to create consistent, profitable growth. After you know that you can consistently generate the results that you need to generate to achieve your goals. So a message that I want to share is, until you get there, please plan on spending probably less than 20% of your time doing the things that you really love to do, unless the thing that you really, really, really love to do is running and growing your business, okay? Because that's really where you need to spend the time. So lesson number 1 is that most owners don't spend nearly enough time, not nearly enough time, running their business. And again, feel free to jump in here at any time, and I'll try to move along and keep to time according to how those conversations unwind. So lesson number 2, you run a small or medium-sized business, okay? And one of the big assets as the leader of a small company that it's important to take advantage of is your major asset, which is your ability to react swiftly to market dynamics and to turn on a dime. So in other words, your company is a speedboat, not an ocean liner, and you want to take advantage of the fact that your company is a speedboat, okay? Now, in most cases, because your company is a small, nimble speedboat, big company strategies just don't work. And one of the things that I've learned dealing with hundreds and hundreds of business owners over the course of my career is that, we tend to read a lot of business books, and business books are great. I'm a huge fan of them, but a lot of business books contain a lot of strategies and processes that are designed for ocean liners, not for speedboats. Okay, so Fortune 1000, Fortune 5000 industry giants, they have bandwidth, they have historical benchmarking data, they have resources, they have personnel, and they have experimental cash. Okay, and in most cases, you don't. So, huge companies can invest time and energy on comprehensive analyses, on development, on studies, on trials, on these types of things. One thing I'd like to encourage you is don't try to emulate them, okay, because you can't. You don't have those resources. The good news here is that if you have less than $15 or $20 million in annual revenue, you could save a whole boatload of time by ignoring most of the big company management books and data analysis strategies, okay? And instead just focus your time and energy upon the front end of your speedboat, upon leading your business and leveraging your unique ability to be nimble. So learn from the present and the future more than you learn from the past. So lesson number 2 is don't try to be Apple or Exxon. Don't try to be a big ocean liner, because you're not. And until you develop tens and tens of millions of dollars of revenue, it doesn't make sense to behave in that way. Okay? Okay. Lesson number 3 has to do with the way most of us as entrepreneurs tend to think. Okay? Most entrepreneurs tend to be optimists. Okay? We're optimistic about the future. We're optimistic about our ability to make the world a better place. We're optimistic about our abilities to do things that other people can't necessarily do. Okay, so we tend to be optimists, and many entrepreneurs also have larger than average egos. Okay, now when starting a business, especially if you're in the very early stages of your business, you might get lucky and you may hit the ground running fast, and I absolutely hope you do. However, the stats say that that's probably not going to happen. Okay, statistics from the Department of Labor and other business organizations, year after year after year, say that that's probably not going to happen if you're starting a business. So, and that's no commentary on your competency or your intelligence or anything. It's just that on average, most entrepreneurs don't jump out of the gates really fast and don't succeed in the early stages. Okay, so the statistics are overwhelming against you, and I don't like to burst bubbles, but facts are facts, and hope isn't a strategy for success. So please understand that in most cases, in more cases than not, the ramp-up trajectory of a company's revenue and profit growth are going to be significantly slower than the owner anticipates. And again, I hope that's not the case, but statistically, it's probably going to be slower. So a point that I'd like to make is that optimism is a fabulous trait, okay? And having a bigger ego than most is not necessarily bad either. And actually, those things can actually support success in entrepreneurship if we're realistic. So optimism is a great trait, but wishful thinking has placed a lot of entrepreneurs into the poorhouse. So stay optimistic, but base your plans on reality. And the big lesson here that I want to share is that achieving your goals will probably take a lot more time and probably a lot more cash than you initially planned. Okay. Questions, comments? If not, we're just going to keep on rolling. All right, lesson number 4. Lesson number 4, so whether you're selecting an employee, a vendor, a customer, or a business partner, it's important to realize that your company and its culture and your company and its products and services are a great fit for a group of stakeholders. And that group of stakeholders is probably very, 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 very small. Okay. So, you're great, your company's great, but you're absolutely positively not for everyone. Okay. So one of the things that you want to do is identify who you are for. Okay. So you want to identify your unique why. If you haven't read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek, I would strongly recommend it. Okay. Why you exist and what your purpose is for existing and what's unique about it. Okay. But also invest time to clarify what your sweet spot stakeholder looks like, what your sweet spot employee, partner, vendor, and customer looks like. And identify what those special people that reside squarely in your bullseye for you and your company look like. Because when stakeholders that live inside your sweet spot become part of your team or part of your client base or part of your partner group, that's where the magic happens, and that's where results start pouring in, because everybody thinks the same, shares the same values, and is rowing in the same direction. And there's tremendous power in getting everybody rowing in the same direction. Okay? So another big point here is to not only decide what your sweet spot stakeholders look like, but equally important, or maybe more important, is decide in advance who won't be a great fit. Because many business owners make huge compromises, especially in the early stages of their business, and they often accept, and you've all heard this, and you may have even done it, in the early stage of your business, a lot of new business owners will accept anyone who has a pulse as a customer or a partner. Okay, and they may, even though they're not the right fit, most new business owners are very much longing for new customers and to get some momentum. So they take anybody, whether they're in their sweet spot or not. And many business owners don't even identify that sweet spot. But and then to make things worse, business owners compound the problem, and they allow for ambiguity in their agreements with these individuals, because they not only make compromises with taking people outside of their sweet spot, but they also make compromises in the leniency that they allow in their agreements with these people in an effort to get them into the fold. Okay, so early stage entrepreneurs very often take a sort of a let's worry about that later approach. We'll just take it in and then we'll fix it later. But what I've noticed is that a lot of later stage business owners take the same ineffective approach. Okay, if somebody likes you or likes your company, they don't really. Many business owners and many businesses really don't qualify to see if they're the right fit. They just take them. Okay, sell them, tell them whatever they need, get them in, and then we'll worry about it later. And that approach costs companies a huge amount of money. Okay, so I would say in 9 out of 10 cases, those types of compromises blow up in a business's face and have huge downstream consequences. And they always feel it later. They usually don't feel it during the honeymoon phase. They always feel it later. So my message is hang tough, don't wimp out, identify your unique why, identify your sweet spot stakeholders, and hang tough and don't wimp out. Because the lesson number 4, is you're absolutely not for everybody. Okay. Questions, comments? All right. Moving right along. So lesson number 5. Lesson number 5 is probably one that many of you have heard before, but I don't think it could be overemphasized. The true cost of a bad hire can really harm a large company. And it could, and even a very large company can feel the effects of a bad hire. But as a small or medium-sized business, especially as a very small business, a hiring mistake for a small business can be devastating, even to the point that it could put you out of business, okay, if it's a very high-level hire. So you probably heard the lesson before, but it really can't be overemphasized. High-performance organizations, whether they're teams or companies or any kind of high-performance organization, is on the lookout for great talent 365 days a year. They're continually looking to upgrade their team proactively. Most private business owners, especially small private business owners, only recruit when they absolutely positively must hire. When their quarterback goes down with a broken leg, or when, one of their key employees leaves, or when, they get a new opportunity and they have to hire. Okay? So most private business owners, small business owners, make the mistake of only recruiting when they absolutely must recruit, and then they hang on to poor performers way, way, way too long. They take excuses because they have a lot of, they're wearing a lot of hats, and they continue to hang on to poor performers. So I think just about any entrepreneur that's been around for any significant length of time, or any entrepreneur that's been around long enough to experience the pain and suffering of hiring incorrectly, will agree with this lesson. And the lesson is to hire slow and fire fast. Okay? Questions, comments? Okay. So lesson number 6.
I have a question, Joe.
Yeah, go ahead.
How can you best identify your stakeholder sweet spot? And how do you know if a compromise is a bad one?
Aha. Okay. So, well, I guess the first question I would ask is, first of all, what are our core values? Who are we? What do we care about? How are we different than everybody else? Is the first question, because the unique why and the differentiation and what you care about is the first part. The second part is core values. Okay, what are our core values? And then I would ask the question, what does my ideal customer look like? Okay, each of us with a little bit of thought can identify that. If I could have one customer in the world and they would have certain attributes, what are those attributes? What are the attributes I need in a partner? What are the attributes I need in an employee? Okay, at 100,000 foot level, they should care about what you care about, and they should share your values. Okay, but beyond that, I would just ask the simple question: what does my ideal customer, vendor, employee look like? Does that answer the question? Okay. Good. All right, great. Thanks. All right, moving on. So lesson number 6. Lesson number 6 is independent of what type of company you believe you have, a cupcake company, a engineering company, a IT company, a software company, an electronics company, a fish company. Independent of what type of company you have, this is where paradigm starts coming in. Your company isn't a fish company. It's not an engineering company. It's not an IT company. It's not a cupcake company. Your company is a sales company that does engineering. Your company is a sales company that bakes cupcakes. Your company is a sales company that does IT services or develops software. And so my point is invest whatever's necessary to build consistency, predictability, and to develop a world-class sales machine. Okay? It doesn't matter if your company's in the business of manufacture, of distribution, and if you're a widget manufacturer, if you're in service, or if you're a consulting company. At the end of the day, your company is a sales company. Okay? And companies that understand that give sales the amount of time and energy that's required in order to be able to sleep at night and to be able to outperform their competitors. Consistent revenue generation is the lifeblood of every company, no matter what kind of company it is, no matter what the industry. So as such, make sure that sales gets the appropriate percentage of time, money, personnel, and energy it deserves, because if it doesn't, your bottom line is going to suffer. Okay? And this is one of the toughest lessons. I mean, intellectually, we could sit here and most people will nod and say that makes sense. But in practice, this is one of the toughest lessons for most owners to understand. Many owners don't like sales. Some owners hate sales. Okay, whether you like it or hate it, it doesn't matter. You specifically don't have to do it, but your company has to do it. Okay, so bankruptcy courts are full of companies that have incredible products, better mousetraps, amazing ideas, but they have the inability to generate new business. Okay, so without an effective, consistent sales effort, you're just another widget maker or mousetrap manufacturer that's destined for the poorhouse. And I'm not talking about marketing here. I'm talking about sales. Every company has to have the ability and the unconditional commitment to consistently prospect for new opportunities, to have effective conversations with prospective decision makers, and to close those opportunities. And the prospecting function, which is a subset of sales, okay, it's not only the most important function in a small to medium-sized business, but it's absolutely positively the most overlooked. And it's also probably the most hated function for many businesses. But it needs to get done, okay? So, excuse me. Most people, including owners and salespeople, despise prospecting. Some despise it because they fear rejection. Others feel prospecting is beneath them. But the big secret here is great business owners commit to doing the activities that inferior owners will not. Okay, and if you want your company to be wildly successful, make prospecting and prospecting time the number one priority in your company. Schedule the prospecting time first. Plan it indelibly into either your personal or your organizational calendar. Never, ever, ever, ever reschedule it in lieu of other distractions. Never. And there are many, many, many forms of prospecting, but without prospecting doesn't necessarily mean making cold calls or hiring in telemarketing. There are many, many, many different forms of prospecting. Figure out what type of prospecting works in your organization and embed it into the fabric of your organization. Okay, so because without that consistent, effective ability to generate new opportunities, your company's going to wallow in mediocrity forever. Okay? So lesson number 6 is that your company is a sales company. And, please, I encourage you to adopt that paradigm because it'll really help you over the course of time. Okay. Now, if your company is a sales company, this segues into the next lesson. Now, successful owners do understand that consistent growth of a company requires both effective marketing and effective sales. At a base issue, when we strip all of the smoke and mirrors away, no company can succeed in the over the long haul without having effective execution, effective fulfillment, the ability to deliver a product or service, effective sales, and effective marketing. Okay, all companies need those 3 functions to be effective in order to be consistent and grow over time. Okay, but don't confuse that marketing and sales are the same thing. Okay, so don't ever make that fatal mistake of thinking that marketing can replace sales. Now, because sales, I'll step back. Marketing and sales are completely different functions, okay? And resisting the understanding, or the resistance to understanding the differences, has cost many owners very, very, very dearly, and has also cost a lot of owners their company. Now, I'm a huge fan of beautiful websites, of search engine optimization, of social media programs, pay-per-click, public relations, advertising, drip campaigns, blimps, all sorts of other marketing tools. Okay, I'm not disparaging marketing in any way, shape, or form. As I said, having an effective marketing process is core to the success of your business, but they're not a replacement for sales. All of these marketing techniques may be helpful and sometimes essential parts of the customer acquisition process. However, none of them will lead to consistent, predictable, scalable success, because it's important to have marketing and it's important to have sales. Now, no marketing endeavor includes the sort of often scary and somewhat painful process of rejection. You see, because sales involves conversation and rejection. Marketing doesn't. Marketing requires experimentation and assumptions and trying all of these things in hopes that good stuff is going to happen, but marketing very often doesn't require any personal touch, okay? It's organization to organization. Sales requires rejection. So a lot of private business owners, especially small private business owners, try everything possible in the area of marketing before they commit to trying the sales stuff, the scary stuff, okay? And that costs unbelievable, untold amounts of money, okay? So most owners will try just about any marketing technique before investing in sales and prospecting. They attempt to use marketing in lieu of selling, and this just doesn't work. So many thousands of business owners have made that mistake. So learn from them. And this particular lesson may be both the most secret and unknown lesson, but also the one that holds the greatest untapped growth and profit for most private business owners. And the lesson is that marketing doesn't equal sales. Okay? Now, here on this page is just a brief description of of some of the differences. And when you really, I mean, we could spend weeks talking about this one slide, but when you really boil down the differences between marketing and sales and get granular about it, there's some really interesting things that we find out. And one is that marketing and sales, from a tactical perspective, are really opposites, okay? Marketing, the purpose of marketing is to create intrigue, and the purpose of sales is to create profit, okay? Now, if you just compare these two columns here, in marketing, in order to be great in marketing, we need to be interesting. In order to be great in sales, we need to be interested. In order to be great in marketing, it's absolutely positively essential to make assumptions. And the more assumptions we make, and the more intelligent assumptions we make, the better we'll be in marketing. When we shift over to sales and we're having conversations with people, it's absolutely positively essential, in order to be great, to not make any assumptions, okay? Because all of us on this call can look at the same exact picture and see completely different things in that picture. So it's very, very important to not make assumptions. Marketing is about telling. Sales is about asking. Marketing is about emotionally sharing feelings. In order to be effective in sales, it's important to be emotionally detached and just hear information instead of good news and bad news. In marketing, it's very, very important to exude that we are great and we are the experts. In sales, as we said earlier, we're not for everybody, okay? So, and the customer is the expert. We're not the expert once we shift into sales, okay? In marketing, it's all about come and check us out, to engage in a conversation. In sales, it's about does it make sense to continue talking, because both of our time is valuable, okay? And as we said earlier, marketing is organization to organization, and sales is belly to belly. Now the point here is that most companies, most salespeople waste huge amounts of money by doing marketing when they should be doing sales, because once the intrigue is created, we should put marketing away and shift into what we call buyer facilitation or sales, and facilitate a dialogue and continue to facilitate discovery to see if we're a fit for each other, okay? And if we do that effectively, great things happen. Now, when people do marketing when they should be doing sales, there's a consequence in 100% of cases. In the worst case, we'll blow away trust and we'll never be able to talk to that individual again. In the best case, we'll harm our margins, we'll take more time than we needed, and so we'll waste time, which will also hit your bottom line. So again, a big message here, and one of the biggest unknown secrets and lessons that most small private business owners don't understand is that marketing does not equal sales, and crossing the streams can cost you millions. Okay. All right. Lesson number 8, unless anybody wants to ask any questions about that or chime in. All right. So lesson number 8. All business owners can certainly benefit from having reliable information. Okay. And for that reason, it makes a lot of sense for most companies, whether they're big, small, or in between, to make some kind of investment into market research. Okay. Again, as we said on the last slide, in order to be good in marketing, we need to make some assumptions. And without doing some level of market research, we can start spending a whole lot of money, fishing in the wrong ponds with the wrong bait. Okay. Now, however, a small business needs to be really stingy with its limited cash and resources, because like those big Fortune 1000 companies, you don't have unlimited resources and experimental cash. Okay. Now, so rather than pouring money into market research and studies and reading white papers, my suggestion would be to just get into action. Okay. One of the best ways for a nimble speedboat, small and medium-sized business to gather market research is to just get into action, to get out of office and just do it. Okay. You'll be much, much more successful as a small and medium-sized speedboat business finding the real clarity you need around market research by putting yourself out there rather than by purchasing market intelligence and surfing the net. Surfing the net almost always leads to more surfing the net. It leads to more surfing, more tangents, more distractions. We can get into analysis paralysis just when we're ready to pull the trigger. We find more things. And, especially with technology and the rampant, ability to get reams and reams and reams of information on the internet, we could get into this death spiral of analysis paralysis. So my recommendation here is, and lesson number 8, is basically to stop researching and start doing. Okay, get out there and do your market research as part of your conversations and your buyer facilitation when you're engaging with customers. Okay. All right. That's lesson number 8. Looks like we have about 20 minutes here, so I'm going to try to speed things up just a bit. Lesson number 9. We were talking earlier about entrepreneurs and some of the traits. Another trait of a lot of entrepreneurs is that they tend to be control freaks. Now, most entrepreneurs, or a lot of entrepreneurs, believe that no one can do this as well as I can. Okay, and while that statement is often true, or may sometimes be true, there's another true statement, and the other true statement is just because you could doesn't necessarily mean you should. Okay. And control freakiness, the ability to, the trait of an entrepreneur to be a control freak and a perfectionist, and it has to be done this way, often leads to an excess of micromanagement. It often leads to an excess of testing, too much testing, and it often leads to the implementation of big bureaucratic processes and, spreadsheets that include so much data that it just doesn't make sense for a speedboat, and really large company practices, okay? Because remember, again, you're a small company, you're not a large company. So as I mentioned earlier, those kind of activities hurt more than they help. They inspire bureaucracy, they inspire a lot of CYA, and often they inspire politics. And bureaucracy, CYA, and politics are huge profit killers in big companies. And again, they could put you out of business in a small company. So a big point here is to manage things and to lead people. And great leaders, even leaders of very, very, very small companies, great leaders develop cultures that can unleash the greatness of their employees, so they maximize creativity, innovation, and productivity. And if you haven't read the book Multipliers, which is a big company book, but all of the tenets that are put out in the book have to do with leadership. They don't really have to do with big company or small company. And really that's what you want to do. You want to multiply. You want to make your people smarter, and you want to give them the opportunity to fail, okay? Because if you fish for your employees, the amount of fish you can catch is very, very, very limited. If you teach your employees to fish, you can catch a whole much more, many, many, many more fish. So when it comes to results, activities fall into only two categories. They fall into those categories that you should do and those categories that you shouldn't do. And business success doesn't rely on what you could do or you want to do. It only relies on what you should do. So it's helpful for you to overcome whatever personal head trash you may have on the things you think you have to do. And again, the key is to focus all of your energy, both personal and organizational, on those things that you should do. So I would recommend to write a job description for yourself if you don't have a job description. And on that job description, it should include all of the things that you should do. And, write your should do owner job description, and then maintain the discipline to avoid distractions at all costs and focus your attention exclusively on those functions, and then delegate everything else. Private business owners, especially in the early stages, hate to delegate, okay? And delegation is critical to growth. So lesson number 9 is focus much more on leadership and much less on management, okay? Management is, for most intents and purposes, is really an ocean liner, big company kind of pursuit. Big, rapidly growing speedboats will focus more on leadership, okay?
We have a question,
All right.
Joe.
Excuse me?
The question is, how do you best balance delegation versus loss of control? I think he means that to do it right, I need to do it myself feeling.
How do you balance that? I guess that's the question of the ages, right? It's a tricky one. I think with regard, and it's probably a much longer conversation than we can have here today, but it's a great conversation for a tab board meeting. The thing is first understanding that, especially if you are sort of a control freak, to allow your people to fail, to make sure you're crystal clear on expectations. Okay, so I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form just to delegate willy-nilly. I would be very, very, very clear in terms of delegating, in terms of expectations, and then allow people to fail, and then watch them. But if you create an environment, a culture of risk-taking and failure, but also one of measuring critical success factors. And critical success factors can be measured for a company as well as for any particular delegation task. That may help to help you balance it. But I think my point in this lesson is that in my experience working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs, the balance is so over-skewed towards holding on, towards not delegating for most people. My recommendation here in the near term would just be to let go and see what happens. And again, but be clear on expectations and make sure, especially in the early stages when you hand the fishing pole to someone else, that they do know that you're going to measure the results. Okay? Hopefully that helps. All right, lesson number 10. So now lesson number 10 is really that you're the problem. Okay, you as the business owner are the problem. Now, as you see on the slide here, here's the thing: owners that consistently succeed commit to doing the essential things that the vast majority of owners don't do. And entrepreneurs that fail or struggle, they do so because of two reasons. The first reason is because they just don't know what to do. They don't have the intelligence, the business education, the acumen. They just don't know what to do. In my observation, that's usually not the majority. Okay, the majority of owners do have a pretty good sense of what they should do, but they fail or struggle not because they don't know, but because they know and then they don't do it. Okay, so most owners fail and struggle because they know a good percentage of what they should do, but they don't execute on it. It fails in the execution. And for those of you who are TAB members, congratulations. I mean, TAB can certainly go a big way. And I would ask, as a TAB member, I would ask your facilitator, I would ask your coach to help hold you accountable for doing the things that you should do. And if you don't know what you should do, then you could learn through all sorts of means, including TAB and your facilitator coach. But then again, the struggle usually comes in the execution phase, and I want to talk about that here a little bit in a moment. So, as I mentioned earlier, most entrepreneurs fail, and again, don't shoot the messenger. I mean, there's tons of statistics that support that. Most entrepreneurs in TAB don't fail, and part of the reason for that is TAB, and the other part is that TAB tends to attract the kind of entrepreneurs that are open-minded to learning and will stay at the front of the line. But although running a business is loaded with an infinite array of peaks and valleys and challenges and trials and tribulations, some entrepreneurs manage to succeed on a very consistent basis, year after year, company after company. And those are the people that do the essential things that the majority of owners do not. Okay, so the point here is the biggest enemy to business success is not the shrinking market. It's not the poor economy. It's not the growing competition. It's not a really, quote, busy schedule. It's not a lack of cash. Okay, and in most cases, it's not a lack of knowledge. Okay, the single biggest problem to running a business is simply the resistance of the owner. Okay, now resistance is overcome in a variety of ways, and let's talk about these here. So before we start about resistance, the first thing is, why do business owners fail? One reason is just distractions. Any one of us can come into the office any day and have 800 or 1,000 different things that we could choose to do. Okay, and again, it breaks down into what we should do, what we could do, what we want to do, or what we have to do. And if we write a job description and stay focused on that should do stuff, we'll find that most of the distractions in life and most of the distractions when you come into the office don't exist on your should do job description. Okay, now technology, the internet, Facebook, LinkedIn, running down rabbit trails when you're surfing the net, all technology has just added a whole new dimension, orders of magnitude, to the amount of distractions that you could potentially have. Okay, answering every phone call that comes in, as a firefighter instead of prioritizing those things. I mean, there's zillions of distractions that business owners have. Those owners that consistently succeed commit to doing the things they absolutely positively have to do on a consistent basis, whether there's 5 distractions or 500 distractions every day. Okay, they know how to overcome, and they have a plan to overcome these kind of tactical distractions and psychological distractions. So I would take inventory. I would recommend to take inventory of the distractions that you have in your world, and do you actually have a plan to overcome them, to stay focused on the things that you should be doing instead of that you have to be doing or that come at you. Okay. The second thing that prevents average or mediocre owners and separates them from great owners is they know how to overcome their head trash. So the things that pull us into distractions and to get us off of the discipline that we need to execute our job description of those things that we should do, both as an owner and organizationally is self-talk. It's head trash. So it's important, and this conversation is one for many, many hours of conversation, but taking inventory of your self-talk and your head trash will help you overcome those distractions and give you a good sense of why you keep getting off the track and off to distractions, if that makes sense. So the third part is simply a commitment, okay? Now, those business owners that consistently succeed simply make commitments that other business owners do not, okay? So as you see here on the screen, today I'll do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't. Business owners that consistently succeed year after year, time after time, independent of the company they have a level of commitment that other business owners don't have. Now, all of you that are in TAB have a level of commitment that other business owners don't have, okay? But those of you that are in TAB, there are some business owners in TAB who have a commitment that's off the charts, and others that have a commitment that's less than that, okay? So, here's the question. If I ask you, if you could change your level of commitment and stay completely laser focused on the things you should do for the next 6 months, I would give you a check for $10 million. Or if you stay laser focused on the things you absolutely positively should do, and if you didn't, your kids wouldn't eat, how would that change your level of commitment, and how would that change your behavior in your company? Okay, I don't know the answer to that question, but it's a very interesting question, and most business owners that I've asked that question said it would change considerably. Okay, so ask yourself that question, because commitment is a huge part of doing the things that you should do in your business, whether you want to do them or not, or whether you like to do them or not. Okay. Now, the other really, really big reason that a lot of business owners don't achieve the level of success that they want to is just this thing called a comfort zone. Okay, we all have comfort zones. Actually, I just wrote a blog recently on comfort zones. Now, and leaving it, we have personal comfort zones. We have organizational comfort zones. If you want to be the type of owner that just blows it out year after year after year, get to love playing outside of your comfort zone, okay? And when you're hiring, develop a culture of individuals that love to leave their comfort zone, okay? Because the difference between, again, those owners that consistently succeed and those businesses that consistently succeed, those businesses do the things that should be done, and those owners do the things that should be done, whether it lives inside the comfort zone or not, okay? So in your company, try to develop a culture of individuals and a culture of people that love living outside of their comfort zone, because that's really where the magic happens and the results pour in, okay? So just in the interest of time, I'll summarize this very, very quickly, and then we can take some questions. Lesson number 1 is most owners don't spend nearly enough time running their business. Lesson number 2 is don't try to be Apple or Exxon, you're a speedboat. Lesson number 3 is achieving your goals will most likely take a whole lot more time and cash than you anticipate or plan. Okay. Lesson number 4 is that you're absolutely positively not for everyone, so live inside that sweet spot. Lesson number 5 is to hire slow and fire fast. Lesson number 6 is that independent of what your product or service may be, your company is a sales company. Lesson number 7 is marketing doesn't equal sales. And knowing the difference, knowing and owning the difference can make you lots and lots of money. Number 8 is stop researching and do your market research from action instead of from behind a computer screen. Lesson number 9 is spend more time in leadership and less time in management. Again, you're a speedboat. And lesson 10, live outside your comfort zone. Make a commitment to doing the things that you should do, and don't allow those distractions to take you off your game, because if you're not succeeding to the level that you should be, it's very, very likely that you as the owner are the problem. Okay? So all of these comments, and I've written an ebook. It's a complimentary ebook. All of you are welcome to get it. You can download it from my website, which, you know, and the link is here on the screen. You'll all receive a copy of these slides, so you can either write this down, or, you know, when you get these slides, you can just go to that link and download the ebook if this content has been interesting for you. And that's all I have. Last few minutes here. Any questions, comments, insights?